Vongai used to be a senior banker in Zimbabwe, but when the coup happened 3 years ago, her connections put her life at risk. She was forced to flee the country with her children and claimed asylum in England. She now lives in a small flat, isn't allowed to work, and is provided with the equivalent of $43 a week to feed and clothe herself and her kids.
That money is not enough to buy clothes. It's not enough it can be enough maybe to buy food, but it's also difficult for you to meet other needs like buying clothes. It's difficult for us to top up. It's difficult for us to pay for internet. You need to choose.
Fongai's experiences are the norm for asylum seekers in Britain. Recently, we met up with Bini, an Eritrean who delivers food to refugees in the northern town of Middlesbrough. He told us he'd found a woman who hadn't eaten for 17 days and was on the point of starving to death.
When you are over the age of 70, you have been confined into a 4x4 meters wall, sharing a house with another three people from different cultures and nationalities. On top of that, you have got arthritis, health conditions, diabetes, and all sorts of things. You need someone to talk to you because that have a great impact into your mental health.
Opposition politicians have been pressing the government to increase the weekly amount of money asylum seekers get during the lockdown. And last week there was a rise of the equivalent of about $3 a week. The government justified it on the grounds that it's above the inflation rate, though in reality it barely makes a difference.
Many people now are having to wait for several months, if not years, for a decision on their asylum application. And so could be living on what is now £39.60 a week for a long time, and the impact of that over time and just how hard it can be for people not to be able to save up, to afford to buy clothes for the winter or to replace basic cooking utensils really adds up over time, and we don't think that's something which the government has ever really taken into consideration.
Asylum seekers aren't alone. The government recently did a U-turn over the provision of food to children from the poorest families in the country, whose parents have told us they had to choose routinely between feeding their children or feeding themselves. Since all this began, the Johnson administration has made a great deal out of being able to magic up hundreds of billions to give to workers who cannot do their jobs, effectively paying them to stay at home. The total cost of giving asylum seekers some money for a few basic necessities is, by comparison, very small indeed. But clearly these things are not about morality, but about political will. Laurence, Al Jazeera, Downing Street in London.